Hey guys, it's Tracy Pelfrey. It's August the 3rd, around 11:30 at night. And this is another difficult subject, very difficult, because I know the parties involved from when I was up in Graham. Many of you do. Many of you probably remember. So I'm going to read this to you, and then it is also in the video, and I will also put it in a link to the article on Facebook. And I cannot thank Sarah DeYoung enough for all of her help. I just can't. She's an amazing person, and she deeply, deeply cares. And I've said it before, she's tireless. She works too. She has a family too. She has a life too. She wants to see justice as much as so many of us do. Thank you, Sarah, from the bottom of my heart. This was written on October 12th, 2011 by Bruce A. Smith, who I believe was the sole proprietor of the Mountain News in Washington. I believe it was based out of Eatonville, if I'm not mistaken, but I could very well be. Doesn't matter. Let's just go ahead and read this. It says, and as I read down further into the article, you're going to see why it's relevant right now. So, former NTCC church worker convicted on child rape charges. Michael Fontnau, a former lay minister of the New Testament Christian Church in Graham. And let me just add here, Michael Fontnau has a brother, Louis Fontnau. I don't know if he's still in the organization. He was at some point. I believe he was pastoring one of the churches. For some reason, I want to say Texas, but I don't see his name now, so I don't know what the situation is. But anyway, if you're thinking there's a link, there is. When you walked into Davis's huge home there in Bonko in Graham, Washington, there was a painting there. I don't know if it's still there, but I believe I recall being up in the house on one of the days when Lewis was painting it, and it was done in a trompe-l'oeil fashion. So I don't know if it's still there or not. So if you're saying, hey, that's the last name of Louis Fontnau, you are correct. Let's start this again. Michael Fontnau, a former lay minister of the New Testament Christian Church in Graham, and also a part-time choir leader and the former publisher of the church's pamphlet, The Trumpet, has been convicted on child rape charges. His ex-wife, Christina Grouder, and other principals involved in the case announced recently. According to documents from the Pierce County Superior Court, Mr. Fontnau was convicted on 2 counts of rape of a child in the 2nd degree, and he is currently serving a 10-year to life sentence in the Stafford Creek Correction Center in Aberdeen, Washington. Fontnau was convicted on these charges based upon his admission that he had sexual contact in 2005 with his then 12-year-old daughter, which included finger penetration. However, his conviction took place in 2006, and it was only in 2010 that he began serving the entirety of his sentence. Initially, the prosecuting attorney, John Sheeran, sought a sentence of 10 years to life, but Mr. Fontnau and his defense attorney requested and received an alternative sentencing agreement from the court known as I don't know if you say SASA, S-O-S-S-A. That stands for Special Sexual Offending Sentence Alternative, and is a well-established legal program that blends short-term prison sentences with extensive counseling and probationary requirements. At his sentencing in mid-2006, Mr. Fontnau received his, I'll say SASA, and was sentenced to 6 months in prison, whereupon he was immediately released based upon time already served. How comforting. What transpired over the intervening 4 years from the conviction in 2006 until Fontnau's SASA was revoked in October 2010 is a complex web of legal intricacies and problematic personal behaviors by Mr. Fontnau, coupled with impacts within the community and especially within the NTCC. The case has become multifaceted. To fully understand it, the Mountain News has spoken to many individuals connected to Mr. Fontnau, his family, the church, and law enforcement. Central to grasping these complexities is Fontnau's SASA agreement. As is standard for these type of sentences, Fontnau's SASA protocols mandated that he abstain from alcohol and drugs, maintain weekly counseling sessions with a SASA-approved therapist for 5 years, and assume complete financial costs for the therapy. In addition, he was forbidden to have any direct and indirect contact with minors, and he was required to disclose his status as a sexual offender to all romantic partners and announce these relationships to his therapist. Also, Mr. Fontnau was not allowed to have any contact with his child and wife, and he had to submit to regular polygraph testing and frequent probationary reviews to ensure compliance with the terms of his release. However, in 2007, Fontnau violated some of his SASA requirements and was re-arrested and placed in prison. The court found that his infractions of alcohol and marijuana usage, along with socializing with neighbors of his family, to be relatively minor, and after serving 120 days for these violations, Fontnau was again released, according to Ms. Grouder. Note: due to the emotional nature of this story, Christina, who is the mother of the child involved, has asked for a measure of anonymity, and the Mountain News has changed her name slightly to provide her with a degree of privacy. Christina says that over the next few years, Mr. Fontnau violated his SASA protocols with some frequency and was re-incarcerated multiple times, typically serving 20 to 30-day sentences. Nevertheless, in 2009, Fontnau began having a prolonged romantic relationship with a young woman who had a 5-year-old child, a major SASA violation. Apparently, Mr. Fontnau informed his therapist of the relationship as required, but she failed to inform the court or other law enforcement. Whether any legal actions will be taken against this therapist is unknown at this time. However, in 2010, a family member did alert law enforcement about Fontnau's relationship, and as a result, Mr. Fontnau was arrested in July 2010, and his SASA was revoked in October 2010. At that time, Fontnau was resentenced to his original 10-year to life sentence. In August 2010, after the arrest but before the revocation, Ms. Grouder contacted this reporter and began sharing the details of the crime and its court proceedings. Christina said that prior to their divorce in 2007, she had been married to Mr. Fontnau for 14 years, and their daughter was born in 1992. During this time, the family had also been attending the New Testament church regularly. The Fontnaus had met in Arizona, and after an uneven courtship that spanned several years, they finally married and settled in St. Louis. There, Christina and Michael intensified their involvement in the NTCC, and a year later, in 1995, the family moved to Washington so that Christina could attend the NTCC Bible Seminary in Graham. At that time, the NTCC also hired Michael Fontnau to run their print shop and produce The Trumpet. In addition, Mr. Fontnau, who had been a longtime member of the NTCC, had been ordained as a minister, began teaching in the Bible Seminary. Also, Christina began teaching Sunday school in the NTCC's Children's Church and did so for at least 6 years. In addition, their daughter attended the children's program. Although she characterizes herself as a fervent believer and a dedicated member, Christina also describes her involvement within the NTCC as mixed, saying she rolled her eyes over a few things, especially the exceptionalism of the NTCC as proclaimed by the leadership. Despite their devoted participation in the NTCC, Christina says they were never part of the inner circle. We were never invited to rent one of the homes on the campus allotted to the families of the ministers. Relations between the Fontnaus and the church, and certainly within the marriage, changed dramatically in 2004 when Christina discovered that her husband was having an affair and also had been frequenting porn sites and sexual chat rooms on the internet. Michael admitted it, Christina said when she confronted him, and they resolved to bring the matter to the NTCC leadership, which led to Michael being fired from the print shop and having his minister's license revoked. After Michael's dismissal, Christina says her family began pulling away from the NTCC. Christina still attended Sunday worship, but Michael stopped attending services altogether. The admission of adultery and his dismissal seemed to trigger something very profound within Michael Fontnau. He got depressed and he just didn't care anymore, said Christina. He also started going out to clubs at night. This latter behavior devastated the marriage. Further strains ensued throughout the next year as the couple grappled with financial issues. I would love to know why they remained married, but anyway, that seems to be very prevalent in relationships where stuff like this goes on. I don't know if she felt like she had to try to make it work anyway, sort of like Kekel was telling Cherie in the text messages that I shared, which it makes me wonder, have the Kekels cheated on each other and they've just made it work anyway? Because if you advise others, why would you advise others to do that? It doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't even make any biblical sense. Then in late 2005, Christina spotted Michael leaving their daughter's bedroom wearing only his underwear. That was so unlike him, Christina said. He always wore sweatpants and running suits around the house. That strange sight of her husband planted a thought that perhaps he was more than just an adulterer. The idea that Michael could be having sexual contact with our daughter was so foreign to me, I couldn't even conceive of it at first. Even with his being a philanderer and the adultery and the clubbing, I just didn't see it. However, by the next day, Christina's suspicions began to crystallize. I didn't have a clue up until this one particular moment, Christina said. Then it was like God just dropped the question into my head. Acting upon this intuition, Christina asked her daughter, "Has your daddy ever touched you in a sexual way?" Christina reports that her daughter was initially evasive and turned away, but she did eventually confirm her father's sexual behavior. Next, Christina confronted her husband, and he confessed to digital intercourse with his daughter and to placing his mouth on her breast. He had a deer in the headlight look, she said, and then a profound drama unfolded. Christina says that Michael began bawling and crying and asked that she take him to a psychiatric hospital, saying that he didn't want to live anymore and that he might harm himself. Bundling the family into their car, Christina then drove to the American Lake Veterans Administration Hospital in Lakewood, where Michael was admitted into the psychiatric unit. At this point in the telling, Christina became quite animated. I'm not a big believer when people say they hear God talking to them, but sitting there in the VA hospital waiting room and filling out paperwork, I heard a voice, clear as day, and I believe it was the voice of God. It said, "You're in the wrong place." "Where should I be?" she asked the voice. "A police station," the voice replied. Christina reports that she next turned to her daughter and asked, "Are you ready for a really hard time? I have to report this to the police." Christina says that her daughter replied very evenly, "Yes, I'm ready." When the admissions nurse returned for the papers, Christina told her she needed to speak with law enforcement, and arrangements were made for her to speak with the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. Over the next few days, charges were filed, statements given, and an investigation launched that included a team of detectives, deputies, and medical personnel. "They were the nicest people," says Christina. "I really compliment them. They really had the human touch. They even gave my daughter a teddy bear and a $20 gift card to Target. I'm so thankful." A week later, Michael was arrested upon discharge from the American Lake VA and incarcerated at the Pierce County Jail. Although Christina said that she felt her husband was totally honest with her at this time and that his abuse of their daughter had been recent, she later learned this was not true. At the SASA revocation hearing in October 2010, Mr. Fontnau admitted to initiating sexual contact with his daughter 4 years earlier when the girl was 8 years old. Sorry, this is so hard. And it has to be heard, and it has to be presented, and you're going to see why. Further, Fontnau's therapist also told the court that Michael had been grooming his daughter throughout this early time frame in preparation for more intimate relations, just like David Streeter with Eileen. However, in 2006, only part of this was known, and at that time, Christina says her husband began accusing her of being a cold and frigid wife, in effect blaming her for the molestation. At the NTCC, Michael was told that a wife should be subservient to her husband and that when he came home from work, she should be raring to go. Well, that's just not the way it is in real life, said Christina. In short, she says that Fontnau complained she wasn't sexy enough. In addition, Christina says her husband was highly judgmental and rarely supported her in any difficult emotional time. He sure knew how to be charming to women he just met and how to be a clown with his buddies, but he never knew how to be a loving husband, she says. Nevertheless, as harsh as life had been with Michael Fontnau, and certainly the financial strains imposed upon the family by his incarceration added greatly to the family's struggles, another trauma befell Christina and her daughter upon Michael's conviction. She was shunned by the NTCC, the New Testament Christian Church. Now you know why I'm reading this. When Michael was first imprisoned, Christina informed the leadership of NTCC, specifically founder Roger W. Davis and CEO Mike Kekel, yet they offered no assistance whatsoever, no financial aid, counseling, or emotional support. Christina was shocked by their rebuff. Helping out by paying my mortgage for a month would have made a real difference, said Christina, who began to cobble together part-time and full-time jobs to earn the $1,400 per month she and her daughter lived on. Where was my religious family when I needed them, she asks. Further, few called or visited, and no one commiserated with Christina. No one offered a shoulder to cry on, said Christina. Friends of ours, 2 couples from NTCC came over, but they never asked what happened. Christina feels that much of this emotional abandonment is a result of the culture and religious doctrines of the NTCC. Yes, 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 yes. Spot on, yes. No one even came to pray with me, she says. This is just like NTCC. Even on simple things, members are forbidden to talk with each other. They can't even talk about the Bible or discuss personal troubles together. People learn to shut up. Christina says she made feeble attempts to tell people what had happened, but met a wall of resistance from her faith community. The NTCC says that if something is wrong in your life, then you're not right with God. I confronted Verna, NTCC founder R.W. Davis's wife, about the abandonment, but she just said over and over, "We do miss you. Just come to church." Just like Kinson told Cherie's daughter, just like everybody tells, just come to church. It's a magical place. It's like Disney. It's magical. You just step inside. God doesn't help you outside, and we can't either. You have to be in the building. We don't want to go out of our way to come see you in your misery. Recalling the incident, Christina became angry. Why should I go to NTCC? I'd just sit by myself and cry all through the services, Christina said, her voice filled with passion. So I stopped going to NTCC altogether after that. Back home, Christina suffered in silence. I just curled up in a ball in my bed, Christina said. But I wanted to be strong for my daughter. I never let her see me when I was a basket case. So when my daughter needed something, I'd sit up in bed, clench my fists, and say, function. She also prayed for real friends and found them straight away, and her life has improved steadily ever since. The day I confronted Michael, that was the worst day of my life, and the best. A lot of good has come into my life after I left my husband and the NTCC. As proof, Christina first divorced Michael in 2007, has since remarried to a remarkably sensitive and secure man. In addition, her daughter has had a wonderful family in which to thrive and grow. Reflecting upon her daughter's happiness, Christina shared a story about the first time her daughter met the man who eventually became her stepfather. Now remember, this was written in 2011. This is 2025. I have no idea what the situation is at this particular time. My boyfriend, now husband, just asked her how life was as a 15-year-old, and she just opened up and told him everything, giving him her opinions on everything in her life, high school, her friends, and how they didn't care about school, and she did everything for an hour. Michael never did that. Christina continued and said that after her beloved left for the evening, her daughter made a very insightful comment. Michael never asked me my opinion on anything, Christina recounts her daughter saying, a statement that fully illustrates the lack of emotional connection within the Fontnau family. Nevertheless, as Christina looks back on those times, she smiles. Finding out the truth of the NTCC and Fontnau and being set free, it's been great, Christina proclaimed. However, in 2006, when Michael was first released from jail, he reportedly became an active member in the NTCC again. Here is the second point. This is the second similar thing. It's why you have people in Graham for how many years? In St. Louis for how many years? Pasadena, Texas. They side with evil. That's what NTCC does. They side with the abusers. Alarmed, Christina informed pastors Davis and Kekel of Michael's status as a convicted child rapist. It's clear now, after the last SASA hearing in 2010, that they never told the church members anything, Christina said. That's totally irresponsible. Whether Davis or Kekel or any members of the NTCC leadership alerted their congregation is unknown. When questioned on this subject by the Mountain News, Graham NTCC co-pastor Phil Kinson simply said, "I have nothing to say to you. Have a nice day." Then he hung up. Of course he did. Further, why couldn't he just say, if they had known, we knew, we let everybody know. We're good to go. No transparency, no accountability. Further, when the Mountain News telephoned co-pastor and NTCC CEO Mike Kekel, he merely uttered no comment, and afterwards he did not hang up the phone or continue the conversation. After a lengthy silence, this reporter re-identified himself and reiterated the purpose of the call and left the contact information for the Mountain News with no apparent results. In addition, efforts to reach NTCC founder and patriarch Reverend Davis have been unsuccessful. Are you surprised? I'm not. However, a former, long-time licensed and ordained NTCC minister has told the Mountain News that he did not hear the leadership issue any warnings about Fontnau upon his reintroduction to the faith community, especially his probationary requirement that he have no contact with minors. Note, this pastor has asked for anonymity, clearly reflecting the grand silence that seems to envelop the NTCC community on challenging issues. Hence, for the sake of linguistic clarity, he will be identified as Reverend T. I didn't even hear a rumor about Michael Fontnau. Nothing, Reverend T said, and pastors usually hear stuff like that. Further, Reverend T, who knew Fontnau in St. Louis, invited Michael to dinner at his family's home in Spanaway and says he never suspected the sordid details of Fontnau's recent past. However, Reverend T now concurs with Christina's perspective that the absence of any effort by the NTCC leadership to alert the congregation left the membership vulnerable to assault from a sexual predator and at the very least was highly irresponsible, if not legally questionable. Sadly, Michael Fontnau took advantage of this veil of secrecy at the NTCC. After his multiple arrests and subsequent releases, he reportedly kept returning to the NTCC community. As stated above, there were apparently no announcements made regarding the dangers that Fontnau presented to the congregation. In addition, Michael soon married again to his third wife, a woman named Jay, who was reportedly a member of the NTCC and the mother of a friend of his. However, beginning in 2009, while still married to his new wife, Mr. Fontnau began spending time with an old flame from St. Louis named KL. They're just using initials, who had also relocated to Graham when the NTCC moved its primary activities to Washington in the mid-1990s. Recently, the Mountain News spoke extensively with KL, and the following is what she shared about the events that led to Michael Fontnau's reincarceration in 2010. Note, again, KL and her husband have requested anonymity in this story, despite their central role in the arrest and resentencing of Mr. Fontnau. The Mountain News hopes it has reached the proper balance between an honest telling of this complex story and assuaging the sensitivities of those involved. KL said that she had known Michael about 20 years earlier when they were young adults and attending the NTCC. At that time, couples need permission to date, and Reverend R.W. Davis did not allow them to see each other romantically because Michael was black-skinned and she was white. Note, in court documents, Mr. Fontnau identifies himself as American Indian/Alaskan, while Christina says that Mr. Fontnau's family was a mix of Creole-based parentage. Reportedly, Davis's pronouncement was founded on the notion that such a relationship would not enhance the work of the NTCC ministry. And side note from me, back in the day, that is what Davis taught, that he was not for mixed marriages because of the fact that they would endure hardships out on the field. Although they would chat occasionally, KL and Michael succumbed to the unrelenting social pressure from the NTCC and went their separate ways. Soon they began dating others and eventually married their new partners, with Michael marrying his first wife, a woman named G. When KL met Michael in Graham in 2009, she had been married twice as well, with her second marriage occurring 7 years earlier in 2002. However, KL's marriage was rocky, and she had already left her second husband several times, even though they had a young daughter together. KL speaks about the Michael Fontnau she knew in St. Louis in warm terms and with depth. She describes Michael's childhood as horrific, declaring that his stepfather physically abused Michael and his older brother and their sisters, charges that Christina confirms. By September 2009, KL and her 5-year-old daughter had left her husband for good and moved in with Reverend T and his wife. Reverend T sheltered KL and her daughter, and over time, Michael Fontnau began visiting. Both KL and Reverend T claimed that they had no knowledge of Michael Fontnau's criminal past, nor were they aware that he was violating the terms of his probation by being in the company of a young girl, or even that he was mandated to inform any woman that he dated that he was a convicted sexual offender. Regardless, his community correction officer, Angela Stanger, reported in her brief to the court in 2010 that Fontnau's behavior at this time is exceedingly below the standard expected of supervision in SASA. Nevertheless, KL adamantly claims that her daughter was never alone with Michael Fontnau. Court records indicate the threesome saw each other with frequency, even going to Seattle on a day trip that included a boat ride and dinner. Further, documents reveal that the daughter confirmed that Mr. Fontnau gave her hugs. KL says she divorced her husband in December 2009 and later moved into an apartment near her mother, a current and longtime NTCC member named M. M admitted to the Mountain News that she has a minimal relationship with her daughter due to issues over the NTCC, which KL confirms. Nevertheless, M says she helped babysit KL's daughter, particularly after school when she received the child back home, often meeting her at the school bus. During this time period, M says that she saw Michael Fontnau coming around KL's apartment multiple times, and that at one point he even had the keys to her home. M says that Fontnau was a weird-acting person who didn't want her to know who he was, and he parked his vehicle behind the apartment complex to further obscure his presence. When she confronted KL on why she was spending time with such an unsavory character, even giving him keys, M said her daughter retorted, "I'm of age, Mom." By mid-2010, events with KL, her daughter, and Michael Fontnau escalated. M learned the truth of Mr. Fontnau, apparently receiving specifics from Michael's most recent wife, who was attending the NTCC with her. What in the world? All these people in the church who know and nothing being done about it. Makes me ill. J knew that Michael was on probation, M said. M says she further confronted her daughter about the dangers of Mr. Fontnau and claims that KL eventually realized that Michael was deceiving her and, most importantly, that her daughter was at risk. Shortly thereafter, M contacted her ex-son-in-law, who in turn contacted law enforcement. Pierce County Sheriff's Department quickly rearrested Michael Fontnau and placed him in jail, where he has remained to this day. In the aftermath, KL has developed some profound insights. I bet. Thank God my child is safe, said KL. That's the most important thing, and I thank my ex-husband for working so hard to protect our child. But Michael lied to me. I'm frustrated, hurt, and mad. I asked Michael why, and all he could tell me was that he was delusional, and maybe he was. All I know is that he's totally different than the person I knew in St. Louis. I don't hate Michael, and I pray for him. I hope that one day he gets the help he needs. Repeating that cycle of life, all that abuse, is all that people like Michael know. As for her family, KL is looking to the future and moving on. But for Christina, her views on Michael Fontnau are strident. I'm all out of sympathy for him. He has violated all sympathy shown to him. Christina also has hard words from Michael and his relationship with the NTCC. Michael is a narcissist and a pathological liar, and he cloaks it all in the Bible. He used his position to hurt people. Christina continues, the NTCC fuels this mindset, she said. They take wounded people like Michael and feed their authoritarian and patriarchal behaviors. A wife is only a sex toy. They tell a couple that if a spouse leaves the church, you're going to hell, and they actively try to get the spouse who is still in the church to divorce the one who is leaving. It's very hurtful and it harms families. Christina says that she would love to confront NTCC CEO Mike Kekel and the church leadership on why they didn't assist her family in their time of need. That's, Christina, what we're trying to do right now. He won't answer. He won't answer. I have no hope of that. I think he's too far gone. I think his wife is too far gone. I think Kinson's too far gone. Verna Davis, Joe Olson, they're all too far gone. They really, really are. They prove it every single day that goes by that they don't resolve these things. She goes on to say, I'd love to tell them it doesn't have to be this way. Nevertheless, Christina's ultimate objective, keeping her family safe and protecting the community, has been achieved. Michael Fontnau is now in prison for a very long time. I hope so. So I shared that. I'm going to include the offender data so that you can see, because I don't know if this guy is still in jail. And if he isn't, and he comes around, will NTCC open him with welcome arms too? And we haven't even gotten to St. Louis yet. Oh my God. With Devonshire, doing the same thing there, doing the same exact thing. Doing the same thing. And so to those people who are in New Testament Christian churches of America, whether you are in Graham or not, if you bear the name of this group on your church building, in your literature, on your Facebook page, anything, how are you not enabling this behavior? If you don't step out and do the right thing according to the Bible, you say you believe the Bible, it's in there what to do with people who sin, right? Doesn't matter if they're in leadership or not. It's in there what to do. You have to hold them accountable before the next conference. Do it. Who will have the guts to do it? Instead of writing to me and saying, this is just your opinion, and I don't do those things, so it's okay. No, it's not. You are them. You represent this group. This group hides They hide criminal activity. They defend abusers. Kekel just did it. He just did it. And never. And I've asked a lot of people. There've been people who have passed away in that church. And people who are left as widows who are still in the church. I don't know how they take care of their widows indeed. But does it matter if the person attends or not? If you had a faithful man who came for maybe his whole adult life and something happens to him, do you even know if with all the money they have and they're so worried about purchasing buildings and paying taxes, which none of it is a thing, none of it is biblical, none of it. But what is biblical is helping people. They leave families destitute. They don't care. They don't care. Where is the care? Where is the love? And where is the guts of all of you who have been in NTCC for a long time? I would love to sit here right now and name all of your names. Well, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. I'm so sick of this. Okay. William McDonough in Anchorage, Alaska. What are you going to do about it? Brandon Everett in Portland, Oregon. What are you going to do about it? You going to ignore it? Ezekiel Cardenas in Bremerton, Washington. What are you going to do, sir? Philip Kinson. We already know about you, dude. You do nothing. You do nothing. And get up and lie to those people and tell them, God's blessing. God's blessing. It's miraculous, miraculous, miracles, miracles. Where? France Germain of Lacey, Washington. What are you going to do? Matthew Haberstadt in Renton, Washington. What are you going to do? Married to Sonia. I knew Sonia and her brother as kids. What are you going to do? You pretend like it's not happening and it hasn't happened ever since the beginning of this organization? Where's your love and care and compassion for these women and their kids? Where? Sean Perez in Seattle, Washington. What are you going to do? Kevin Wern in Spokane. What are you going to do? What? And all these men, how many of you are on your second, third wives? Why? Is it because they cheated on you? They committed adultery? Or was it because they left? John Rodriguez in Tillicum, you've been around forever, dude. What in the world, before you pass this earth, what are you going to do? Frederick Brown in Woodbrook, Washington. What, sir, are you going to do? Cyrus in Bellevue, Illinois. He's been around forever. What are you going to do? Barfield, Chicago. What are you going to do? Leonard Perez in Indianapolis, Indiana. What are you going to do? Somebody ask him. John Garay. Is this the one who, which Garay just brought their daughter up to the school? You're going to leave your daughter around someone like Steven Cemento running around? And who knows about these other guys if they're in and out of there? Tracy Williams, Lexington, Kentucky. What are you going to do? Randy Oberhauser, Louisville, Kentucky. David Charles, Baltimore, Maryland. And we already know there's Bonas over there in Baltimore who has a lot to say. What are you going to say now, dude? What are you going to say now? What are you going to do? Go open your Bible to the New Testament, find out what you do with sinners like this that are running your organization. I say get out. Go be independent. You don't need them. You don't need to be a part of a franchise operation here. You just don't. And it's sad that you think you do. Arthur Cardenas in Washington, D.C. What are you going to do? Sampson in Detroit, Michigan. Huh? What? Toby Hansen in Avos, Missouri. Reginald Terry in Berkeley, Missouri. Douglas Sewell in Springfield, Missouri. David Devonshire. We already know about you, dude, because you're doing it right in your church. Nothing. You cover up, sweep it under the rug. We're not going to help the ladies. We're not going to help. Robert Montalvo in Secaucus, New Jersey. Love your little family. What are you going to do? DeBlanc and Beeler in Ohio. What are you going to do? Michael Whitlock, Brooklyn, New York. Brandon, I don't even know how you say his last name. Salibio? I don't know. He's married to Crane's daughter up there with their daughter in a serviceman's home. That's disgusting. What are you going to do? Better check your own place up there. Jason Parr, Columbus, Ohio. David Wallace in Dayton, Ohio, Ronald Woods in McKees Rock, Lester Goff in Newport News. He came in after we left. Lewis Holt in Richmond, Virginia. Gregory Pettit, the Pettits. I'm so disappointed in you, Alice and Gregory. Charleston, West Virginia. What are you going to do about this? You stick your head back in the sand? Dale Walls, same thing, dude. Madison, Wisconsin. Love you and your family. What are you going to do? Ricky Hall, we already know, right? You're right up the butt of Kekel, so I don't foresee that. But I'm going to ask you anyway in Glendale, Arizona. Patrick Cowan in Mesa, Arizona. Lester Lacaze in Phoenix. Yuri Crockett in Sierra Vista, Arizona. John Polk, Tucson, Arizona. What are you going to do? Juan Madrano in Bakersfield, California. Anthron Schuler in Fresno, California. Ruben Luciano. Love the Lucianos and the Masons. Some of the nicest people you ever meet. What are you going to do? Do you even know? Are you paying attention? Please. Los Angeles. Paul Butler in Modesto, California. Anthony Rossi, another family up the butt of the Kekels, Oceanside, California. What are you going to do? Howard Geyer, Redding, California. Martin DeReuter, 29 Palms, California. Travis Fields in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Chad Ankenbauer, Denver, Colorado, or Aurora. What are you going to do, man? You, your wife, he's married to Phil Kinson's wife's sister. And he has there with him the Johnsons, who, if they're both still alive, I don't know if they are. I think they are. And he used to be a board member. Did nothing. All these people who, they're just about quick deed claiming buildings and building and doing all kinds of other things except doing all the things that no one else can do. What did you know? Go ahead, Chad. Ask your father-in-law. What did he know and when did he know it about all these situations? And what did he do about it? And what's he going to do now? What are you going to do? And whoever's there with you, isn't, what's his name? Chavez there with you? Robert Hicks in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Richard Snyder in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Let's go to the southeast. Larry Jones in Phoenix City, Alabama. What are you going to do? Errol Archibald, Central Florida. He's up Kekel's butt. I don't foresee him doing anything. He's going to be too afraid. He left once and came back. Why'd you leave? Why'd you come back? Glenn Denton. Oh, boy. Lakeland, Florida. What are you going to do? Gerald Lewis. Remember the Lewises? Miami, Florida. Adam Bigelow, Orange Park, Florida. Ellen Guest, Orlando, Florida. Verleni Lindsay, Tampa, Florida. Ku Vang in Augusta, Georgia. Falcon. Israel Falcon in Hinesville. They're the ones. I love the Falcons. It makes me sad. Do they even know what's going on? Roderick Davis in Macon, Georgia. Anthony Keys in Marietta, Georgia. Rayford Jason in Charlotte, North Carolina. Timothy Love in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Jeffrey Carter in Jacksonville. He's up. He is the enforcer for Kekel on the East Coast. That's all I'm going to say. But what are you going to do? Anything? You're afraid? It's your bud. Kekel's your bud. You're going to do anything about it? You're just going to keep letting these abusers, child molesters, be defended? That's what you're about? Raymond Madden in Columbia, South Carolina. Gary Crane in Memphis, Tennessee. Ravindra Lloyd in Nashville, Tennessee. What are you dudes going to do? You're going to keep ignoring it? Pretending like you don't know what's happening? We know the rumor mill is out there, dude. Come on. Jeffrey Byerly, Jacksonville, Arkansas. Keith Gandy, oh brother. Another one. He was up Davis's butt. He's all about pushing those GIs to give money and to work harder and to be in the Lord's house. Jason Fulmer, Wichita, Kansas. He's the one that came over from Korea. Edison Justiniano in Leesville. Sorry if I hacked that up. Matthew Watson, Shreveport, Louisiana. Prometheus Hager, Dale City, Oklahoma. Eric Love, Lawton, Oklahoma. Alexander Shabanov in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Michael Alexander, Amarillo, Texas. Isaac Campos in Austin, Texas. Jacob Espinoza. What are you going to do, sir? You've been in a long time. What are you going to do? Get a clue. Andre Champion, Dallas, Texas. Timothy Rossi, Little Timmy in El Paso, Texas. Zacharias Cardenas, Fort Worth, Texas. Glenn Tucker, Irving, Texas. John Garay, Colleen, Texas. David Tiemann, the Tiemann family. Oh, and Kekel had wonderful things to say about them over the weekend in the fellowship meeting and all. Wonderful things to say about people who mistreat women and who take children away and other things. Timothy Jordan, TP, that's George Jordan's brother. What are you going to do? What are you and Vanetta going to do in San Antonio? Going to ignore that too? Just going to ignore it? Let's go to Hawaii. Juan Cardenas. What are you going to do, man? Curtis Annis in Vilsec, Germany. Jose Gonzalez in Panama. Stanley Alberti in Okinawa, Japan. Guy Gahangu. I don't know if that's how you say your name. Sorry. Kaneohe, Hawaii. Angel Cespedes. I know the Cespedes. Dorado, Puerto Rico. Caleb Hain, Camp Humphreys, Korea. Joel Godario. He just went over there to the Philippines. And I believe we've got everybody that's listed here. All churches list. I think we got them all. That does not include the helpers in those churches unless I specifically mentioned some. Look at all the people up in Graham. What are you people doing up there? Winters? Connor? You just turn your head? Scales? About all you people in the choir up there. Malone, you're an enabler. You know things, and you just choose to ignore it. Just to what? Because you're afraid to go out in the world and do something real? And Fausto, what are you going to do about it, huh? It's disgusting. It's so disgusting. I'm going to leave you with this for now. And I'll put the paperwork over on Facebook. Thank you guys for listening.